All right, guys, welcome back to the studio for another Real Talk episode. As you can see, we're LARPing today in the studio, and we are going to be talking about all the items you need if you're just starting out. If I can go back and start all over again from day one, owning zero firearms, zero kit, to today, knowing what I know now, what would I do differently? What would I encourage people to invest their time, money, and resources into? And that's what we're going to talk about. But before we get into all that and start to break down sidearm, rifle, kit, belt setup, and all that, let's just first take a moment to thank the biggest sponsor of the channel, which is Brownells. If you guys want to support the channel, head over to rangedaybro.com. We have all of our discounts over there, all of our affiliate links over there as well. Subscribe to the email list over there, and then we're going to be sending out a bunch of deals that we find on the internet. Also, like, comment, subscribe. Free way to support the channel. Thank you guys for doing that. We have a Patreon, Rumble, X, Instagram. As bad as that is, just please support me and follow me on all those platforms. It means a lot to me. All right, so when I first started out buying guns, like many people were, I just didn't know very much, didn't know what I didn't know. I followed a lot of the internet hype and the internet trends. So we're gonna kind of break down from the beginning. We're gonna start with handguns. We'll move to a rifle setup. Then we'll talk a little bit about a belt setup and then kit like plate carriers and stuff like that. But there's a lot to really digest and go through in each topic and what I learned. So I'm sure I'm gonna miss like 1,000 things, and I'm gonna look back at this video and be like, man, you should have mentioned this or that. But for now, I'm gonna bench this rifle, and we're gonna talk first about sidearms, starting with my main duty carry and everyday carry, which is the Glock 17. This is a customized Glock 17, but you don't need to get a custom one to have something that's good and reliable. That's the reason I went with Glock. It just needs to be reliable. And for a lot of years, I didn't want to have what everybody carried. So I was a hipster in that sense. And I started, with other guns, but Glock is always what I come back to. It doesn't matter if it's a Glock 17, if it's a Glock 19X, if it's a Glock 19, other reliable pistols like the Smith & Wesson M&P. There's a ton of good, reliable pistols out there. It doesn't have to be a Glock, or insert whatever your personality, whatever brand you attach your personality to. It doesn't have to be what everyone else is using or anything. As long as it works for you, you need to go out and shoot it and make sure it works with your defensive ammunition. Obviously, I highly recommend a dot or some sort of milled slide, so that if you can't afford a dot, at least to begin with, then you can always later on upgrade and add a dot to it. Because shooting with a dot, shooting both eyes open, being able to remain target focused is like a huge cheat code. It also, anytime anyone asks me like, why do you like shooting with a dot? Well, sorry about that, guys. We had a mic issue. My mic fell off and probably blew your guys' eardrums out. I'm probably gonna cut that part out, but we got it back up and running now. But what I was saying was, when you're focused on your front sight, when you're shooting irons, you lose 50% of your peripheral vision. So again, that's a lot of information you're losing. If you're in a home defense situation or you're out in public, there's any kind of situation, you could insert any situation here, right? That peripheral vision is probably going to be beneficial for you to have in case there's somebody who doesn't need a bullet in them running across, panicking in a gunfight, or in your home, for instance. That's really good information to have coming into your brain. So it's nice to remain target focused, both eyes open. You get a lot more information coming into your brain. It is a lot more to process, but it's information you want. So the main thing is a light, a dot, and a reliable handgun. It could be any variant of that. Obviously, the higher the capacity, the better. 9mm is the standard. Shot placement matters way more than my stopping power, as all the FUDs like to say. So shot placement, practicing, all that good stuff. We're gonna have a video with Rob Epifania and talking about his courses and how to improve dry fires is a huge asset. So we'll talk about the belt later. Doesn't matter what the pistol is, put a light on it, put a dot on it. Whether you want backup irons or not, that's up to you. Again, for my carry gun, I don't run backup irons. You can call me an idiot all you want in the comments. That's just my prerogative. But again, it's not gonna hurt you to have backup irons if you want them. It's not gonna slow you down. Now, getting into the rifle conversation, and the reason I'd start with that is because in America, the government's still standing. We're not talking about doomsday scenarios or zombie scenarios here. 99.99% of the time, if you're using a gun, it's going to be a defensive handgun encounter out of your home or in your home. And you can use a handgun pretty well in your home, right? If you're buying a gun just for home defense, I'd recommend an AR-15 for reasons we'll get into here in a second. But the beauty of a pistol is you can carry concealed. You can take it with you on your person out in the wild. And again, if you're not putting weapon light on there, then you're not preparing for 50% of time in life is at night. So again, you need to be able to see in the dark and see what you're shooting at, identify targets, things like that. So that is why I recommend the pistol first, because it can be transported easily, concealed easily with you around and about. If you're gonna buy a gun and never carry it and you're gonna keep it in your house, which I don't recommend, then go with an AR-15. But I digress. Let's talk about the AR-15 conversation and why the second gun you should ever buy and invest in is an AR-15. Now, we're gonna be talking about a lot of Gucci gear on this rifle. You don't need to have Gucci gear. Again, you just need something that's reliable. There is like a minimum threshold of performance or of like cost that I would recommend, because I wouldn't recommend trusting your life to something that costs $400 for a complete rifle oftentimes. But again, if you go shoot that rifle and it works, great. Or if you go shoot that rifle and you shoot the barrel out and you replace the barrel with a higher quality barrel, so on and so forth, we can really get in the weeds on that, so we're not gonna go down that path. But you just need a reliable rifle, and the reason I recommend a shorter 5.56 gun is because it can do everything that you need it to do, 400 yards, 500 yards and in, but still be wieldable with a suppressor. And I do highly recommend suppressors, especially like, okay, if you're just starting out, buy a handgun, buy an AR-15, an 11.5, a 12.5, if you really want to, 13.7 or 14.5. Again, I'm not here to argue the barrel length conversation. Whatever you want, just go get it. It's still relatively, like we're really splitting hairs when we're talking about a 12.5 versus a 14.5 on all aspects, on weight aspect, on velocity aspects, but that's what people like to do. We get autistic and we get into the weeds and we talk about little minor details, and you're gonna die, you're gonna be in a loot drop because your barrel's an inch shorter than my barrel and I'm better than you. It doesn't really matter. As long as you shoot it and you like it and it encourages you to go train and shoot because you're excited about it, that's what you need. So there's some brands, I hate even recommending any, but like what I'm running is Geisley. I love Geisley. I think when they go on sale especially, or when you use my code on Brownells, they are an extremely good value. So if you don't want to wait for them to go on sale, my code gets you 10% off on Brownells, which is already a pretty darn good value in my opinion, especially for all the improvements. We have videos on the Geisley Super Duty uppers already. So if you're interested in those, go check them out. But yeah, I think that a 12.5 is the perfect, 11.5 or 12.5 really, either one will do for 400 yards and in. You put a good piece of glass on there. Again, okay, let me just start with this. Talking about the optic topic, ACOGs are absolute trash, and anyone who uses them is a garbage person. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, every time I use an ACOG, I try to like it. I try to want to use it more, and I absolutely end up hating myself for wasting ammo trying to hit small plates at far distances. A 6-inch plate at 300 yards with a 3.5 power ACOG is almost impossible to see, and I have pretty good vision, okay? So don't, here we go in the comments section, Marines can hit, okay, great for those guys. I pray to God that they actually can do that and they're not just talking trash, but at the end of the day, use what works for you. I'm selling all my ACOGs if anyone wants them. They're gone. I'm done with them. I'm seriously so sick and tired of trying to make ACOGs good. They're dead to me. So I'm getting rid of this, even this TA11 rather, that I have on the FAL. Super fun gun, super cool looking setup here. We just did the shooting portion of the review yesterday, so I don't want to spoil it at all, but I mean, that ACOG, as cool as it looks and as lightweight as it is and as durable as it is, it's not cheap, and you can't see shit past 200 yards. You just really can't, especially if it's in the woods and it's in a shaded area and it's really sunny outside, like in a real world scenario. The ACOG's dead to me. I don't care what anybody says. At this point, I'm done with them. I'm done. So, to that point, you don't have to go with an LPVO, but do not go with an ACOG, in my opinion. Go with a red dot and magnifier if you want a gun that's going to be primarily used for 100 yards and in for home defense. And then if you want to stretch it out, you can just flip up your magnifier and use it in that way and get the actual best of both worlds. A super big window, really fast sight acquisition, and zero parallax on the holographics, on the EOTechs. Or you can go with a LPVO, which is my recommendation and my favorite optic right now because the glass is phenomenal. They are extremely durable compared to early on. Everyone talks crap about LPVOs not being durable, maybe like 20 years ago, but they're super durable now. This Attacker especially, this is like the creme de la creme, so really hard to compare it to other options. There's so many variants of LPVOs out there now. It can be a little confusing, but if you buy a relatively reputable company like a EOTech or a Night Force or a Trigicon, like they're very durable. Get a good mount and you're not gonna have to worry about it breaking on you from dropping the rifle. Not saying they're as durable as an ACOG, but you just can't see anything with an ACOG, so you might as well be running iron sights or a yeah, we'll have to do a whole nother video about how much I hate the ACOG now. But anyways, that's my recommendation. If you're gonna use it for 0 to 400 yards, get an LPVO. If you're gonna use it 99% of the time for home defense, get an EOTech. It's cheaper for sure, and it's super durable, and it'll get you through, again, 99% of those scenarios that you'll need it for. Hopefully you never need it for at all, but you may. So that's my recommendation there. Obviously, weapon-mounted light, again, Surefire. I've never used a mod light, but I've used Cloud Defensive. I've used Surefire. I've used the AWLS from HRT Tactical. Love that light as well. Just get you a good light that's got a good reputation behind it. Get you a good can. You don't have to break the bank on a can. I do work for Energetic Armament, but with that being said, I only work for them because I like their products. I like the owners behind it. And this Ferox is like my favorite 5.56 can currently. Again, I work for them, so take it with a grain of salt. They're not paying me. I don't get paid to say I like it. I just run it because I like it. I also don't have to run it or talk about it on my main channel. It's part of the deal. But I like it so much that I do, and it remains on my everyday go-to war rifle. So Ferox is great, 6mm can. It's not a low back pressure can, but it has an expansion chamber, so it's got a reduced back pressure quality to it. I have it direct threaded. Probably gonna go to the Rearden muzzle devices. I really like the way those interface, and they're really short and lightweight. So those are compatible with the Q Cherry Bomb muzzle devices and mounts. But I like that they have flash hider options. I think the Cherry Bomb only comes in a muzzle brake. So that's cool. This is an SBR. Pistol braces are back on the menu, so you don't have to SBR your shit. If you want to run an 11.5 or 12.5, just put an SBA 3 or 4 on here and call it a day. Yeah, you can't have a magnified optic. Who knows anymore? You can't have a vertical grip. You don't need it. Just get a hand stop and put a red dot on here and you're good. Avoid all that shit if you don't want to deal with it. Great. But again, the reason I recommend the AR-15 as your second gun, it can get you from 0 to 400 or 500 yards in an 11.5 or 12.5. It can also do really well with home defense because of 4 points of contact versus a pistol having only 2. It's going to get you a larger magazine capacity, 29 rounds YouTube, and then it's also going to get you much faster follow-up shots and much lower recoil impulse than something like a 12-gauge shotgun, which everyone touts as the best thing for home defense. Well, maybe if you're using birdshot, but buckshot does penetrate more walls than a open tip or a ballistic tip 5.56 or 5.56 round going out of an AR-15. That's been proven many times on the internet. I'm not going to even stress that at all, but the 5.56 is the best for least penetration, even over 9mm. Now, obviously, in whatever scenario you're shooting in your house, you want to have a defensive ammo like hollow point or something like that, but I digress. The AR-15 is the best for home defense. You're not going to convince me otherwise, unless there's some new crazy information that comes out that I was not aware of. But I've done a lot of research on this, and I'm certain that if I need to shoot somebody in my house for defending my life or the life of my loved ones, then it's going to be the 5.56 because, number one, it's the easiest, the best to shoot, has the best ballistic performance on target, better than a handgun, I guess not better than a shotgun, way higher capacity, easier follow-up shots, easier to control, can suppress it easily and keep it a wieldable package. If you want to put a suppressor on a shotgun, you're talking about a 30-inch gun at that 30-inch barrel at that point. So yeah, you don't need a laser. You don't need a huge, great LPVO with a top dot. You don't need all this crap, but it definitely doesn't hurt if you want it to have more capabilities. But this is the second thing I would recommend you get. Now, the third thing I'd recommend you get after that. So one thing I completely forgot to touch on that we said I would was the war belt. So forgive me, I'm adding this in now. But the war belt setup that I have going right here is geared more towards competition, I would say, but it's also usable for duty uses, right? And what scenario is a prepared citizen going to use a war belt? It's going to be any scenario, whether you're like holding guard, holding post, a recce rig, if you're running around out in the woods, like do you need a sidearm on your hip? I would say it definitely wouldn't hurt, especially for that type of scenario. Maybe you'd want something with retention rather, but this is more of a competition style holster. But I do love this belt setup. I have the TXC holster mag pouches and holster on here with the, I believe it's the Tech Lock. I forget the name of this company, that their attachment points, really cool. You can cant them any direction you want. I have the one in the front, does not get in the way. This is great for vehicle, getting in and out of a vehicle, even laying down in the prone, which I did during the tactical games, a bunch of burpees. This one in the front does not get in the way. Super fast reloads. I love that. And again, if you were doing this to ruck 10 miles, you might want to set this up a little differently, but I have it set up for competition right now. But I think a war belt is probably in between buying the pistol. So after you buy a pistol, I'd recommend getting a war belt and then a chest rig kind of at the same time. This is kind of like two pieces of kit that kind of go hand in hand. So you can have sustenance and magazines and ammunition and whatever else you need quickly accessible on your war belt, and then also a little bit slower from a chest rig, but still not all that slow. Also, another thing is medical. So highly recommend medical. This is the Blue Force Gear trauma kit. I forget the micro trauma pouch. So, and get medical training as well, because you're much more likely to need some sort of medical, a Band-Aid, a boo-boo, some gauze, a tourniquet, than you would ever need to use your pistol or rifle. So medical is super important. I usually have it on this belt, but I don't for right now because I was moving belts around. So it's super easy to put on. It's just got some Velcro straps in the back. But that is pretty much going to be it for the war belt. I am a huge fan of these TXC holsters. I can't say it enough. These are the best holsters I've ever had. They did send these out to the channel, but I'm not just saying that. They really are super high quality and super customizable. You can turn the cant any direction you want. You can adjust the retention, obviously, but they also have some built-in standoff, which I'll show you real quick. So the mags have some built-in standoff there, so you can see it pushes the mag off your body just enough to give you room to grab those mags quickly. So I really like that as well. We have an HRT tactical dump pouch in the back. It's just a standard micro dump pouch, which I really like. And that's going to wrap it up for this guy. And I think that this kind of lives between the pistol, again, get medical. I mean, get medical without even buying a gun. You should get that first probably. And then the chest rig. Now, the third thing I'd recommend you get after that is the kit, I guess. I guess we'll skip the battle rifle for right now, because that's not as essential as like either a plate carrier or a chest rig, depending on what you are anticipating happening, right? There's a big difference between offensive missions and defensive missions. Offensive missions, oftentimes you plan it out. It's premeditated, so to speak. So you might have a crew with you. You might be going to, and this is like getting into guerrilla tactics and scenarios, urban warfare, without going down that path of like, hey, what scenario? I like to just make it very simple. At some point in your life, you may, for fun or for real life, like need to, in a war scenario, whatever that might be, again, not talking scenarios, you may need to hit something at 800 yards or 1,000 yards. And at some point in your life, you may need to hit something at 300 yards or 200 yards. And at some point in your life, you may have to hit something at 3 yards, okay? So why not have the capabilities to do each and a tool for each job? There's no such thing as a free lunch. So as much as I'd like to have one gun to do it all, it's really not possible, I'll say, without giving something up. And we'll talk about something here that kind of scratches that itch. But first, we'll talk about kit. So plate carrier is much more, in my opinion, of a defensive type asset to have. So if you're, obviously if you do it for work and you wear a carrier for work, then no one needs to explain that to you. But as a civilian, if you're ever in a defensive encounter, this just happened with that lady who had those dudes break in her house to steal her Bitcoin. Like her boyfriend put his plate carrier on. He didn't get shot at, or he might have got shot at. He's not really sure, but he put his plate carrier on because he knew these guys were coming. She was leading them from the home to the garage where their studio is, and he put his plate carrier on. And in that situation, that's a perfect example of like real world, the government's still standing. I need a plate carrier because people are coming to shoot me with guns. So that's a great use or a great scenario or great thought experiment for a plate carrier. If you want to patrol your neighborhood or something without, there's some civil unrest and you're out and you're in the public, you're not in the bushes, you're not hiding, and you're just out patrolling for whatever reason, then a plate carrier is another good option. But when it comes to like rucking and traveling and moving around a lot, I don't have it up here, but I have a HRT placard that I just put on an H harness, and it's pretty much a chest rig. So I think a chest rig is actually a better start for the Second Amendment purpose than a plate carrier, because the barrier to entry is lower. I wouldn't say much lower, because depending on which chest rig you get, they get very expensive. So, and you could also theoretically run a plate carrier without plates in it in order to kind of scratch that itch before you want to invest in some plates. But a chest rig is really cool because it keeps you lightweight, agile, and you can kind of set it up and tailor it to whatever you need, wherever you live, depending on your magazine sizes, what platform you're running. You can make it exactly what you need. You can put water on there, you can put mags, you can put medical, you can put sustenance, food. And so you can kind of tailor it to what you need or what your priorities are. So I'd recommend like some sort of chest rig. Like I said, I just use the HRT Tactical Maximus placard that goes in the front of my plate carrier, because those chest rigs, like all the other ones, like the Spirited Systems, like after you get all the pouches and everything kitted out, it's like $500. It's really expensive. So I'm kind of just running what I have right now, and it's worked fine for me. Again, the only issue is with that one, when you lay down prone, it's pretty thick, but I don't have it to show you guys, so I'm sorry. But then after that, a plate carrier with some plates, again, I think is something that civilians should invest in, because again, why do politicians want to make plate carriers illegal? Like, I just don't want a bullet to go through me. Am I a bad person for that? But this is the Cry JPC 2.0. It's probably my favorite plate carrier to date because it is so slick. I'm a really big dude as it is, and when you put a big plate carrier over top of me, I end up being like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles thick. Like, I'm already a thick dude, so like with these plates on here as they sit, like I'm having to walk sideways through a doorway. No, I'm just kidding. It's not that bad yet, but definitely could afford to lose some lbs. But at the end of the day, a plate carrier is going to be, again, the next step in what I would recommend people get into. Now, after that, again, if you ever want to shoot far and hit something far, not talking scenarios, but a battle rifle would be the next recommendation. This is kind of the creme de la creme, the Rolex, so to speak, of the battle rifle world. This is the HK MR762A4. Just dropped a review on this. If you want to see the full review, check it out. Really love this rifle. It's fairly lightweight for what it is. It's a lot lighter than its younger brother, the A1, but it's a 16.5-inch 308 gun, so it's going to give you the ability to hunt with, if your state allows you to hunt with a semi-auto gun, semi-auto 308. Really, I've shot a lot of deer with my A1 version. I shot 2 axis deer and 2 whitetail deer with that A1, and it performs phenomenally well. I love that thing, and I love this thing because it's pretty much the same thing but improved. So if you want to shoot something out to 800 yards, now you can do it with this gun. Now, the only gun that I would think would, and for the Second Amendment purposes, let's just be honest, if you are fighting a tyrannical government, foreign or domestic, you're going to want somebody in your squad to have a capability to reach out further. Now, you can still run and gun, go through buildings, do the cool guy high-speed stuff with this thing, but at least now you have one person in your squad that can actually reach out to extended ranges and be either suppressive fire or actually taking accurate shots at distance and taking out key personnel. Again, not in the military, but there's a lot of applications. There's a reason that the Army chose this for its SDMR, the M110A1, several years ago. So there's a bunch of Army dudes running around with actually the old version of this rifle. It's kind of a mix between the A1 and the A4. But the only thing I would recommend potentially, we'll look at this guy, because this guy is a really cool concept that I've wanted for a long time. And this is kind of the Army's new exploration into the mid-range gas gun world. So this is the MRGG-A Assaulter version. This is not clone correct. This is a ballistic advantage barrel that D. Wilson cut down and converted. And we're just got it from my buddy. You know who you are. Thank you for letting me borrow this to kind of start up the review back with the Mars H. But the Mars H is a really cool platform because it has this quick change barrel system. Again, we have a full review on this rifle, so if you are interested, go check that out. But here's the 16-inch 308 version of the barrel for this gun. And we did an accuracy test where we pulled this completely out of the gun in the field, put it back in, and we had 0 POI shift, and it shot actually a better group the second time. It was probably just me, but it actually shot a sub MOA 5-round group with the Sierra SMKs. So absolutely kind of floored by the accuracy out of a chrome line barrel from LMT. This is a factory LMT. This is not. This is the Ballistic Advantage 14.565 Creedmoor. But the only reason I bring this up is because this gun has the ability, it's not cheap to buy their barrels. Like, they're like $800. So it's definitely not a cheap thing, but it's much cheaper than buying another AR-10, that's for sure. So it just has these 2 screws here in the back. You loosen them up, and then you can pull the barrel out and change it out to whatever caliber you want. Obviously, 6.5 and 308 use the same bolt, so BCG mags remained exactly the same. So very quick swap in the field, and then I have the capability of shooting a 14.5-inch gun out to whatever ranges I want. And 6.5 has a much higher ballistic coefficient than 308 does. So that's the reason, again, that's another reason I recommend the LMT, because it gives you that versatility. And if you want to buy, this is your third gun, And obviously we're not talking about glass. Glass gets pretty expensive. But this is your third gun out of your collection. You have a reliable handgun, a reliable AR-15, 11.5 or 12.5, and you have now a battle rifle. And if you wanted to, and I really want to, I just can't afford it right now, put the 20-inch 6.5 barrel in here and make it the MRGGS, the sniper variant of this platform, which didn't win the contract. Geisley won the contract, but still, it's LMT's MRGGS submission to the contract. Then with a 20-inch 6.5 barrel, you can reach out far beyond. I mean, how far? Maybe to like 1,400 yards. I didn't do the ballistic calculations, but I'm sure people shoot 20-inch 6.5s to a mile, but effectively well beyond 1,000 yards. Let's say that, like 1,200 yards, 1,300 yards. I'm sure people are doing it consistently, accurately. I'm sure that the 6.5 has the BC to stay supersonic past those ranges. So that's a really cool capability to have in one rifle. Now, this is not a cheap platform, but you can part it out. Again, Brownells has these regularly. You have to kind of like look for them and buy them whenever they're in stock. That's the only downside. But again, RDB10 does work on the LMT stuff, so that's really cool. So if you wanted to buy the LMT upper whenever it came back in stock, you could use my code, and then you could just buy the barrels. So the barrel's in stock right now, so that's pretty cool. I really am tempted to just pull the trigger and buy one, but my baby mama says otherwise. So that's where I'm at. That's why I love the LMT. If you only want to shoot 308, the HK is really the best of the best, but it is upwards of like $4,200, so it's very expensive. These things can be had for like $3,800, so not much cheaper if you want to buy it complete, like out of the box, like completed BCG, everything. But you can part it out and spend about the same, but then get exactly what you want instead of a 16-inch 308 barrel, because I don't think they're easy to find with the other variants of the 14.5 6.5 or the 20-inch 6.5. I think that those are a little bit harder to come by. But then again, you guys let me know what you think down in the comments. What did I miss? Don't even bring up shotguns because you're going to get dunked on. I'm just kidding. I just don't like shotguns. I don't think that they have much of a practical use. And besides, like if you have to hunt, like I grew up in Ohio, and the rule previously, I haven't been there in a long time to know this, but you used to have to hunt with a shotgun slug because it was pretty flat in Ohio, but a stupid rule because you don't have to do that in Texas, and Texas is pretty flat in a lot of places. But I don't know if that's still the same rule, but also drone warfare. You can make the argument that drones have brought back the tactical necessity for shotguns. Obviously, if you're a breacher, we're not even talking about that. I'm not a breacher. I have no experience in that. So breachers use shotguns. They're usually like really short, sawed-off guys just for blowing out door hinges and stuff like that. But yeah, ACOG's dead to me. Don't buy an ACOG. Get you a high-value AR-15 of the 11.5 or 12.5 variety, mid-length, carbine length. Who cares, guys? I just shoot it. Obviously, if we're splitting hairs, you want the best of the best of the best, then we could have another conversation about that when we don't have already probably a 40-minute video going here. But yeah, that's pretty much, if I had to start all over again, a reliable handgun, I would just buy one instead of buying this. But it's hard not to know what you don't know. So if you have friends who are cool, ask them to go shoot their guns. Like go shoot with your buddies and try out their guns if you're interested in buying one before you spend the money and buy it and make a mistake and then set yourself back in your journey of acquiring kit and gear. If you already have a plate carrier, you already have a reliable handgun, you already have a reliable AR-15 and a DMR, then just go buy ammo and invest in training courses and invest in competitions and test your equipment and put it to the test, because that's really all that matters. Like the most important thing is don't chase this dream do-it-all gun or the newest and latest and greatest, because this is the coolest thing. And if you have the dough and it's fun for you and you don't gamble and you don't drink and you know and this is your kind of your vice, so to speak, like it is for me, then like by all means, I'm not telling you don't buy cool stuff, but just understand that if you want to be an effective asset to your country, like if you want to fulfill your duty as an American, like I see it as a duty, my duty as an American to just be less of a liability, then you should really probably be training with one pistol and one rifle 90% of the time and just getting to know it so well that when you put it up to your eye, there's no thinking what your holdover is at 7 yards. There's no thinking what your drop is at 500 yards. You just know it. And that is a very rare quality for people to have, even though some keyboard warriors are already popping off in the comments talking about how they can shoot 1,000 yards, hit a golf ball at 1,000 yards with iron sights. I hear it all in the comment section. So, but you know what? At the end of the day, I remain humble. It seems that I'm one of the only reviewers who gets bad guns or lemon guns, and I'm the only one who talks about it, right? I show this stuff, and I do harm relationships with manufacturers, but I don't really care about those. I care about my relationships with you guys, my viewers, because I was one of you sitting in your seat where you're sitting and listening to all these people talking all these products up and just highlighting all the good stuff. And if they even mention the negatives, they breeze over it or they minimize it. And it's like, well, no, dude, like this shit's expensive. It could set you back. And now we're getting into a whole other topic. But I just find it curious that a lot of other reviewers get more accurate guns than me and have guns that don't have any malfunctions whatsoever. And meanwhile, I'm like, am I the problem here? Am I shooting this wrong? Because I have a lot of issues with a lot of the guns I get in. And some of them are minor, but some of them are more major than that. But you guys, if you've watched the channel, you know that. But it's just it gets a little frustrating when I see other reviewers getting perfect guns in the mail. But anyways, that's going to be it, guys. That's where I'm coming from. If you had to restart, if I had to start over, that's how I would go about it. Love you guys. Thank you so much for staying to the end of the video. RangeDailyBro.com, our discounts page over there, our loadouts page as well is pretty cool. I spend a lot of time doing that. So let me know if you guys find that valuable. If you want to see more of the setups on there, I'd be glad to do it. Subscribe to our email list. Like, comment, subscribe, Rumble, X, Instagram, all that crap. Love you guys. Christ is King. Take care.